Attention, bobsled riders! You will soon be embarking on a thrilling podcast down the icy slopes of the Matterhorn. So please remain seated, keeping your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the bobsled at all times. Auf Wiedersehen!
Welcome back, Matterhorn Yodelers. I am your host today, Japheth, and I am here with
Jackie
and
Flying high!
Peter. And we are jumping on the nostalgia train. We're going 30 years.
This seems to be a common theme for all of your hosted episodes.
All right.
All aboard! Let's go!
We're going back in time, and we're doing a movie review for The Rocketeer. I'm a ride-or-die Rocketeer. Like, there's nothing someone could say that will just, convince me that it's not a good movie.
And the day this episode comes out happens to be...
Its premiere date, 30 years ago.
That's right, it's 30th anniversary.
So it's kind of really cool, which also freaks me out, because I don't know if we saw this in the movie theater.
I don't think we did.
I think it was just rented, and then we watched it on Laserdisc.
Yep.
Pull out the plastic sleeve, couple blows,
Yeah,
Get
make
all
sure
the
there's
dust.
no fingerprints.
no fingerprints, no dust, and then you put it in. Kids will never know.
Nope, they won't.
Trying to grab the whole thing in your hand, especially if you have small hands. Oh,
You have
so
to hold
hard.
it with two hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do those. Yes. Okay. So yes, we are definitely on the nostalgia train because we're talking about Laserdisc right now. So we The Rocketeer premiered in 1991, and the synopsis of the movie is Cliff Secord, portrayed by Bill Campbell, is a cocky stunt pilot in love with a beautiful actress, Jenny Blake, played by Jennifer Connelly. When he discovers a jetpack hidden in a biplane, Cliff straps it on the rocket, dons a flashy helmet, and becomes the high-flying hero known as the Rocketeer. But when the Nazis want to use the rocket as a weapon, Cliff must use his alter ego to both protect Jenny from an evil actor played by Timothy Dalton, also known for his role in James Bond, or Mr. Prickly Pants' voice in Toy Story, and save the day in this period adventure based on the comic books by Dave Stevens. So this movie takes place in 1938, so it's before World War II. But it's the glitz and the glam of Hollywood, and some say 1939 was the peak golden age of Hollywood.
Well, I mean, if you listen to the opening video at Tower of Terror, they would tell you exactly that 1939 is the glitz and glamour of Hollywood.
And I used to watch old TCM movies, Turner Classic Movie, black and white, and they talk about this was it because after World War II, it changed things, and then you have television coming out within 5 years. It just Hollywood was at its peak and the stardom, and it was a special time for Hollywood at that. And so this movie is portrayed in that time period, and there's beautiful artwork with the architecture. It shows you, just different sides of California, and so let's go into the pros. Oh, fun facts.
Ooh, cue the fun
Fun
facts.
facts. Yes. I really like doing this. My favorite part of the homework. Okay. So the Rocketeer showed up in a 1982 comic, which is the first comic book movie in a
Walt Disney
picture.
Yes.
But then there'll be that one guy in the corner going, "But wait! What about Dick Tracy?" And Peter told me today it was Touchstone.
Correct. Dick Tracy was released under the Touchstone brand, whereas Rocketeer was released under the Walt Disney Pictures brand.
So, Marvel, you're welcome. The Rocketeer paved the way for you. So Dave Stevens, he's the creator of it. So the Rocketeer premiered as a secondary comic book strip, and Disney was the last company to put in a bid for it. And they were just what they saw was, merchandise.
That's how they saw it, and that's why it was released under the Walt Disney Pictures, because they saw this more as a merchandising thing for children than a film for adults or families.
Yeah, and when watching it, it has that Indiana Jones-esque style where you can't take it too serious.
Yes, and I think even like that was what it was advertised as. It was advertised as like an Indiana Jones-like adventure. So if you like Indiana Jones, you'll probably like The Rocketeer.
And boy, do I. Okay, so actors for the lead for The Rocketeer, which was portrayed, like I said, by Billy Campbell, was offered to Johnny Depp, turned down the role.
Yep.
And then it was offered to Vincent D'Onofrio. He's not a very popular known actor, but he played Private Pyle from Full Metal Jacket, and so that's probably where a lot of people know him. And he turned it down because he was like, I don't know if this is kind of my fit. But Billy Campbell was offered the job. He was working at a Renaissance fair when his agent presented it. And so he looked at the comic book and he goes, this looks just like me. And so he cut his hair and shaved his beard.
That was a big contributing factor as to why he was picked. It's because he literally looked the part.
He had no major roles before that.
Even afterward, he didn't do much.
He was more television,
Yep.
did a couple episodes here and there.
He's got a new show now that it's actually been pretty big. I forgot what it's called though.
And so the composer, James Horner, which I believe he made the movie.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I
mean, you think of Rocketeer or you just think of the music.
And you'll hear, recommend listen to the music.
I'll probably be playing it in the background. I'm going to be honest. In the editing, the music might be playing in the background.
He wrote it in 3 weeks.
Wow.
And the thing is, the music for this movie, you still hear it in movie trailers today.
Oh, yeah.
You do. I'm just thinking of it. I've got goosebumps.
Well,
I'm
don't you hear it when you get out of Soaring?
No.
Not but in the gift shop.
No.
You hear it in the center plaza.
Oh, maybe
where they shut off the
it.
fire, the water jets.
That could
and
be
Epcot. Before you go into Epcot East or West.
The Fountain of Nations that's no longer there. That's where they played it at Disney World. They also played it at Tomorrowland at Disneyland. Back when they used to have a little show with their satellite dish that was in the center of the park.
And they broke.
Which is why you can... I'll talk about this later. We'll talk about the parks later.
Michael Eisner almost axed the helmet.
Oh, wow.
Because he wanted a more of face, exposed face. And the director's like, no.
No, we're going to keep it looking like the comic book.
We're going to go with comic book. And
that was probably the best
no,
decision.
Stay in your lane, Michael.
Pretty much.
More movies were in the works, but the movie flopped. It cost about $35 million to produce, and it only made $46 million. But it was going against City Slickers, Point Break, Terminator came out July 1st, and then Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. There was just a lot working against it.
It just got bombarded with a lot of great movies that it just got overshadowed.
It's just like a hidden gem.
And also...
It's an occult. It is considered like an occult film.
Also, it got marketed as a children's movie. And they also contribute that as a contributing factor as to why it did not succeed. They didn't make it appeal to adults. They made it more of this is a movie to take your kids, which is a funny concept when you think about it. A movie about Nazis is we're going to advertise this to kids
because we need kids. Our kids today need to know you need to punch a Nazi in the face because that's what happens. And boy, did it work! Boy, I can't. All I want to do is I see one that's I'm going to punch him in the face because Indiana Jones taught me that, and the Rocketeer. So speaking of Nazis, Neville Sinclair is based on Errol Flynn, and he was an actor at the time, and he was suspected of being a Nazi spy.
Yep.
And then Neville Sinclair's house was used. It looks familiar. It's in other films, but it's the Ennis house, and it was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. And you watch the movie, and you're like, this house is so cool. It's got this Aztec, maybe space
So, like, the outside
design.
the outside of the house is correct. It is that house. The inside is actually a set that they constructed. So they got permission from the owners, and they got molds of the walls
tiles.
and the outside of
wow.
the, so that they incorporated that on the set for the inside of the house. So,
Interesting. I did not know that. Peter's fun facts.
my fun facts, yes.
Please,
Okay,
you got it.
No, that's all I have. Oh, is that all?
I'm done with the fun facts.
Okay,
no more
so
fun.
I have one more. There is another. I wouldn't say it was a cameo, but in today's standards, we can consider it a cameo. Do you know who the singer was in the dinner theater? Who was singing at the club?
Yes, the South Sea Club.
I don't remember who it was.
I hear it. Du-dun-du-dun-dun.
It's Jan from The Office.
It was her. I was.
Oh.
Are you kidding me?
That's Jan from The
I
Office.
was talking to my wife last night as I was watching. I was like, "That looks like Jan from The Office."
Jan from The Office.
Oh
That's
no way! My mind is
crazy.
blown.
Because like I watched the movie, it didn't even faze me. Then I heard the facts, and I went back and watched it. I'm like, that's Jan. Like that's totally Jan singing.
That's so crazy you mentioned that, because last night I was like, dude, that lady looks totally like Jan. That can't be her because she's in The Office. And I go, well, The Office was like 15 years ago, so it kind of makes sense where she's 15 years old. Or, wow, I'm blown.
All right, I got one.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That was my big fun fact that I held.
That's cool.
I love it because I mentioned it last night. And my wife's like, whatever.
I'm gonna have to go back.
I know, our wives are like,
She's doing
"Okay,
homework. She's
whatever."
all like, that's nice, dear.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch that scene again.
Yeah, and you listen to it and you're like, yeah, that's Jan from The Office singing, because she sings in the show, and so like
She's selling her candles.
yeah.
All right, so let's go into let's talk about the cons first of the movie. What were some of the things that stuck out to you? Like, why? Like, it seems like we all enjoyed the movie for the most part, right?
For me,
Am I projecting it on everyone that watched the movie? Oh, you don't like this movie?
We all agree that it's a 5 Mickey bar movie, right?
I kind of want to get another person's perspective. In my mind, I just love it. And so I want, like, what things hurt it and why did it not succeed? And some of your thoughts. Besides the fact that it went against other movies, and it probably would have done better if it was played in, like, January or February.
Yeah. I wasn't necessarily a big fan of Jenny.
Jenny?
Yeah, I was about to say that too. I wasn't a big fan of her as well.
She seemed too
nice.
flaunty-ish, like in her tone. Like she's like, a little snootish, and I don't know. I just didn't really care for her character as much.
I didn't see the Rocketeer and her.
So the chemistry was off?
The chemistry was off, I felt like. I didn't feel like... I felt like he was only with her because she was a pretty actress, you know.
He is a self-involved character. Like, he's all about flying. That's all he is. You know, my wife was watching, she's like, oh, I bet you think she's really cute. She's your type. And I'm all like, actually, I like him because he's got the hair I've always wanted. And my wife's like, you're so weird. I'm like, it's either the guy's hair or it's the beautiful girl. It's just what it does for me in a movie. Yeah, I can see that. The chemistry is kind of off because he's so self-involved, and then she's an actress trying to get her career going, and she's very artistic.
She's a little self-involved as well.
Yeah.
So,
and it's not till the end you get that kind of connection, but it's still, I can see where it's like, they're not, like, the chemistry's not there.
Yeah, I wanted kind of like that Goonies chemistry between like, oh, what's her face? What's the actor's name in the Goonies?
The guy that like, yeah, Sam, the
Samwise Gamgee. Forget his actual name.
Yeah.
Rudy.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like the girl that is in the Goonies, the main
Sean something.
Yeah, I know you're talking
Sean.
the main girl. I feel like she would have been better.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Because she was writing off of she was in Labyrinth, right?
Yeah, she was
And
in Labyrinth. That was
So
that
she
was a very
had
big show.
a history at least beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is another factor. Is you don't really have A-list character.
No.
You have James Bond as the villain, but you usually don't. You have a hero movie. You don't showcase your best person is the villain.
Right.
He's and so you're bringing in somebody new, and I think he does a fine job acting, but he's new, and you can kind of tell that.
Who's new?
Billy Campbell.
Yeah.
He was
I
relatively new to
enjoyed it.
Hollywood.
I didn't have a problem with his character. I thought he was
liked
fun.
him.
He was
I thought he was
believable.
great.
He was good.
very relatable. I felt like
Yes.
too.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy who's very passionate about what he does, and he wants to be successful at it. And sometimes you get caught up in your own thing that you lose sight of what's going on around you. And so that's
True, like this podcast. I didn't even know I had a child till I went home. I was like, oh my gosh, there's a child right here. No. Okay. Did you guys have any issues with any of the casting where you wish it was different? I really liked, this is a pro, so I guess we'll stick with the con still. Is there anything, did you find anything wrong with the twist with the bad guy working for the Nazis?
I loved that part. I liked the bad guy.
He was good.
I mean, honestly, that whole scene where you find out that he is a Nazi sympathizer was the only, in my opinion, probably the only slow part of the movie.
Yeah.
Everything
When
else,
they go back to the house.
Yes, that's probably the only slow part of the movie. Everything else flowed really well. So, that's probably the only part I would say. It's the bathroom break part of the movie.
Yeah.
and I thought maybe this throws me off is his big goon. He's got that prosthetic face that they used in Dick Tracy, where you're like, that's not a real human face.
Yeah, you take a look, for those who haven't seen Dick Tracy, take a look at what some of the bad guys look like, and you see some of that with that one character in the Rocketeer for sure. And he I have no personality. I'm Hulk smash.
Yeah,
he's
Yeah.
very dry.
The muscle. He doesn't take away he
I
doesn't
don't
take away from the story, except every time he walks in and his face, you're like, that's a weird face.
Right.
You're like, that's not.
Kids,
Where's
close
the
your eyes.
rocket? Where's the rocket?
It's like reverse Batman.
Right, he
does
is. He's reverse Batman for sure.
Okay, so we really don't have too much negative to beat up on it. It
Not
seems
too much. I mean, it is 90s, and their special effects aren't top tier effects. So you have to take that with a grain of salt. Where it's just all
oh, this is an early '90s film.
this isn't like Jurassic Park or Star Wars looking. It's some of the special effects are a little off.
They're a little hokey, but not too bad. They actually invented, and I read this, they invented the shaky cam.
Oh,
with
yeah,
this.
I heard about that.
Because of when you're in the plane, they just move it back and forth, which is a technique that came from this movie and is used in other films. Kind of create that vibration if you're flying, especially when you're in the big giant Zeppelin scene, and so that's where you get that in this film. All right, so not too many cons. I mean, I think the biggest one is you don't have the A-list. If you had Johnny Depp in it, it may have made a difference.
It probably would have.
It would have probably pulled a different crowd. You may have gotten that chemistry a little bit better.
Yeah.
A
young Johnny Depp. Yeah, I could see it. But I don't know. I still like the main actor.
I've always liked him.
He was
I see him on
great.
TV and I'm like, oh, that's the Rocketeer. I always get excited when I see him.
So I didn't have a problem with the main actor at all. So
Okay. I was kind of feel I was I need a different perspective when it comes to the negativity of this, and I'm trying to try to poke it at myself. Well, is it this that people don't like, or what is it this? Okay, so pros. What do we like about it?
the music, obviously.
So number one is the music.
Yeah.
Music is always a selling point for any major movie. If your music's good, it's gonna take your movie far.
I love the scene where he's first has the rocket and is flying crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And his friend. I loved his friend.
Peavy.
Peavy. He's played by Alan Arkin. When you see him, you're like, oh, he's been all around. He's been everywhere. So Alan Arkin, he's been in other films. He's award-winning, and he's probably the best, actor in the film, I think.
He's probably the most likable character in the cast.
He is.
Yeah.
He's the sidekick. He's an aerospace engineer.
He's the best way, like, when I watch this movie, it's kind of like if you combined Billy's and Alan's character, you have Iron Man. You've got, you got Peavy, who's, like, the technical mind. He's the mechanic. He's the one that builds things. And then you've got the Rocketeer, who's
the confidence. And
overconfidence.
Yes.
And, So, if you combine those two characters, you have Tony Stark.
And they're a good combo together.
They worked really well together.
They respect each other, and you always wonder, what's the backstory? Like, how did they become friends?
Mm-hmm.
And that's...
Or maybe they hated each other.
Nah, they're friends. Whether, they're just... It had this, uncle,
Yes.
nephew kind of friendship. So I love the dynamic that was built there, and I always thought that was fairly genuine and how it was acted. He's one of my favorite actors that was in this film. Timothy Dalton as the Neville Sinclair.
I mean,
was he a good villain?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He was great. Anything Timothy Dalton in, it makes an impact. It's always it's Timothy Dalton. He's got one of those commanding voices, recognizable voices that you're just all I've got to listen to this guy.
Mm-hmm. It's got this soothing but low.
Yeah.
Jeremy Irons was casted for the roles, or they wanted him to be in the role too. But I think Timothy Dalton would have done a better job. It was fun to watch him in those acting scenes where he's just you're an actor and you're trying to act from a certain time period.
Right.
It's you're kind of worse than your normal acting, and it's kind of fun to see actors
an actor
act.
playing an actor who's acting a scene for another movie.
Yeah.
And I love the line where Jennifer Connelly is you're a liar. She's no, I'm acting,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And so when I always say actors are a bunch of liars, and it's people are no, they're not. It's a script, and it's just well, I'm just quoting my favorite movie.
That's true though.
So I really, he does a good job, and I remember watching the film, and I never had the sense, there are Nazis in this film. No, totally oblivious, and it was a great twist when I found out.
They talk about it a little bit, with the Zeppelin. Because they have the newsreel, and they talk about the Zeppelin that's coming to Hollywood land.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are some of the pros that you saw, Jackie, in it? What was a good scene that you were you got excited or you enjoyed?
Like I mentioned before, the intro scene where he first puts on the jetpack and showing all the people and
when he's rescuing his friend. The rescue scene.
Yes,
the rescue
the
scene where he
rescuing the
becomes the
clown.
Rocketeer.
Oh, that was such a funny scene when the clown is all flying the plane because he was late, and that was such a fun scene. And just imagine if you're in the crowd and you see someone with a jetpack or
No, imagine if you're the pilot and the
flag pops up.
comes up while you're flying a plane underneath your feet, and you're what's going on? You're
and he looks like an alien.
Yeah.
He has those big bulbous eyes, and you don't blame him. And I love when he's when he comes down and they're all taking his picture, and he's whoa, that. That was yes, any normal human being is going to act that way. I'm I'm on the ground. This is amazing. I love the scene where the news people are what do we name him? And
Oh yes.
They're Rocket Boy. No, that's dumb. Rocket Man. No, that's even worse.
Rocketeer. Yeah, and
I could get he's looking at a picture and Tear. Yeah, Rocketeer.
So I think there was how they introduce him. They just don't throw him into it. It's I'm the Rocketeer. He doesn't claim it. It's given to him, which is really cool. And I kind of I was just thinking about this. 1938. and it's a Marvel comic, is he considered, technically, it's now a Marvel comic, but not back then, could he now, under the Disney umbrella, be considered the first member of the Avengers? Move over, Captain America.
Right.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Mm.
Pre World War II, so you could definitely
Could make an argument.
classify that. Sure, you can make an
Could
argument.
it be an Avenger, maybe?
Sure. Well, we can throw the Rocketeer.
I'm just
in.
trying to get him more screen time.
You just want a meet and greet at Disney
Oh,
parks.
man.
That would be cool. I wouldn't mind a meet and greet with the Rocketeer.
All you see are 30 or 40-year-olds above. Who is this guy? He's the Rocketeer. The kid's like, I don't know who this guy is.
Actually, he is in the new.
He does have a cartoon.
There is the Rocketeer cartoon series that's out right now, where I think he has made appearances.
He voices in, yeah. I always get excited when you go to like the D23 convention. You'll always see somebody dressed up as the Rocketeer.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like, that's so cool. And I can't help but always go to like eBay and going, how much is a helmet? How much is a rocket?
Right.
Or get the jacket.
Yeah, I can totally see you wearing the
And
jacket.
I just, like, that's my dream, like, cosplay, is to be the Rocketeer.
That's a good one. That's a good cosplay.
It'd be a little weird, because I put the helmet and you see, like, this giant beard flip out of there.
Right.
But if I'm flying, it's going to go this way. You're not even going to see it.
Sure.
For our listeners, Shafith has a huge beard.
It's long.
It's so I can go first in the mining game, the Snow White mine game.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why I've got it. So when we play that one game, it's the rule where the person with the longest beard goes first. And so it's definitive. I go first in that game.
There you go.
So
Back on topic.
Back on topic, yeah. Does anybody else have any problems when the Rocketeer flies and then his pants don't catch on fire?
Yeah, I never understood that. I was like, what about his pants? Like, that's a little... And I was like, does his bum get, like, really hot? Like...
Yeah, I always thought that. I was like, where's the robot chicken on that one? That was great, Petey. And then he's like, he turns
His
around.
pants.
His pants are gone. We gotta do something about that.
Right.
I have a feeling cotton pants from the 30s didn't have that kind of fire resistance
probably
necessary. So you see, like, when they show the footage of the Germans trying out their rocket, this guy's fully, like, in this, you know, like, fire retardant suit, and, like, Rocketeer's like, nope, I'm gonna put it on. I got a leather jacket, and I'm just like, I got some boots, let's do this.
You gotta learn sometimes to take a step back from the movies and be like, sure.
And that's where I go, like, this has got that Indiana Jones kind of feel, where, like,
yeah.
you know, yeah, like, people always complain about Indiana Jones where, like, the Crystal Soul's like, it's unrealistic, but, like, really, the melting guy, or the guy with the flame in
Right.
the heart, that's realistic?
That's
okay. We've got some,
You're upset about the nuclear bomb in the fridge.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, with the Rocketeer, it's one of those things, like, I overlook this because it's really a fun concept. And,
Sure.
one thing I liked Howard Hughes. He's played by Terry O'Quinn, who's best known in Lost. He's the person who's paralyzed.
Yeah.
And then he's
He's able to walk again after the crash.
And so I think he's wonderful, Howard Hughes.
He did a great job. Like, he did a good job playing that role, and, like, I loved how, like, him and Peavy were going back and forth, like, oh, I really liked, he was genius about putting the propeller in the helmet, and it's like, yeah, well, you gotta do that, like,
Basic aeronautics. You know, I love that line. He's telling Howard Hughes, one of the fathers of air aviation.
Right.
You know, modern aviation with... You know, so it's just one of those things to hear him talk about going back and forth. We got this small airfield,
right,
you know, pilot,
mechanic,
and he's just talking to the guy that's producing airplanes at a manufacturer level, industrial level. You know, so it was kind of fun to see. It's like,
yes,
this is a very new field to where, when you're in it, you're one of the pioneers of it. And so when you go through Soarin', you get that sense of, like, California.
You get that vibe in the California Adventure of Soarin', of that that time era of aeronautics.
Yeah. And so, and it kind of, like, this movie kind of, like, although you don't see an homage to the Rocketeer and soaring. It kind of plays on that thing of California aviation and the contributions that come from it. Okay, so any other kind of pros?
You talked about the first time he flew. I like the first time they tested it. When they put it on the dummy and it's tethered and it's just flying in a circle.
He's like, I'm gonna go get it. He's like, that'll cut you in half. And everyone's going, yeah, that'll cut you in half.
Kill you. And then it flies off and well, there it goes. And then it's actually behind him and it comes out. I thought that was a funny scene and it was...
The intro does a really good job when he's flying and it just sets up the movie getting started.
Right.
You got the FBI chasing one of the thieves of the rocket from the Hughes plant. And, I feel the movie's just fairly seamless. And I suppose, the house is probably the slowest part.
But everything else flows really nicely. It's, you don't really get to the point of, okay, what's happening now? Okay, what's the next scene? It's a very natural
And you really don't know what's going to happen. Most movies, you're like, okay, we're going to go here, we're going to do this. But for this part, you're along for the adventure, and it's still fun. I was watching it last night, and I was like, this... just flows for me still. I don't get thrown off with it. I like the architecture style of that time period.
Yeah.
You're at the South Sea Club. It's beautiful. I love that kind of the dog cafe that they have.
Oh, yes. That was so fun.
And you went to the backstage lot. You used to see that, or do the tour. You used to see that dog cafe back there. I don't know when they got it. It was 2000 it was still there.
It was there. I forgot when it disappeared, but it's around 2000. No official report was filed as to what happened to it, but many people who worked there at the time said it was falling into a state of disrepair due to the Florida weather.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the humidity is brutal.
Yeah. But what they had there in the park, that was the actual restaurant, and they actually filmed inside there. It wasn't like they just used that for exterior shots. They actually filmed inside the cafe for all those scenes inside.
Oh, wow, because it's very tight quarter.
Yes,
and they said that was part of the style back then to get people in the roadside, that Route 66, and try to pull you in with that kind of style. Just loved where they filmed and showed everything in the film. I love this film. You'll hear me say, I love.
The thing I really liked, and it was something that, if you're watching the movie, you don't really think it has any importance to the entire storyline, but man, is Beeman's gum tough.
Oh, so I love...
So they set that up at the very beginning, because they're like, it's got a hole in it, let's put some gum on there, and that's enough to keep the fuel inside... Until the very end, when they decide we're going to peel this off so that the bad guy doesn't get the rocket. So
it was, very critical.
I loved, you wouldn't even think anything of it. We're just going to put this in here so that you don't die. But that becomes an integral part of the story. It's just a little chewed up piece of gum.
Yeah.
I always tell my wife, if they're showing it to you in the movie, it's going to be important later, such as that if they focus on it for more than 2 or 3 seconds, an object without people in it, it's probably the murder weapon. Or it's probably critical to the storyline. Yes, and so they had a more interesting, it was back in the day, they didn't have pressurized cabin, and so to help with the elevation, it says it's a Pepsin gum. And so that's supposed to help with your stomach and also with the pressure with the ears. And so that's why chewing gum. And so they really emphasize that in this film. And so it's it's funny that you brought that up. It's it is, as I was watching it and I was reading the fun facts and just seeing, man, they really hit upon gum. Gum is important for flying planes and stuff like that. And I don't even think Beeman's gum was even in existence really anymore. Maybe if it was back in the day. If you know, let us know. Send us a fun, creepy voice message in Anchor. So, okay, we're going to get to the point where we are going to rate this. I'll start us off. 5 Mickey bars.
Oh man, I'm surprised.
Surprise!
I thought you were going to
I love this film. There's nothing that can be said because we're on the nostalgia train, and it's just great. It's just fun. people ask me for a recommendation for a film, and they've got family kids that are above like 6. I go, watch this film. It's clean. It's good. It's from the 90s. You don't have to worry about anything with your family. Even the kissing is like very tame, so it's just, it's good for the family. It's good for everyone. 5 Mickey bars. All right, Jackie, what do you got?
4.
4?
Yeah. 4 Mickey bars. It's a good movie. If it's on, I'll sit and watch it. Not like one that I'm like, I'm craving it. I must watch it now. But if it's on, I'm glued. I'm going to watch it.
I watch it probably twice a year.
I would say I'm right in between you guys. I'm about 4.5 Mickey bars.
Jump on the nostalgia train with me.
I've always been a fan of the Rocketeer. It's one of those things that like maybe like I will have a drive to put it on. So like when I'm in the mood, like when I'm thinking about the Rocketeer, I can't stop thinking about the Rocketeer until I watch it.
Does the movie trigger it for you? Does it pop up like the music and then you're like,
sometimes,
maybe I should watch this?
Sometimes, yeah. So like I'll get these little triggers. I'm like, I really enjoyed that movie. I really need to watch this movie. And I'll get that occasion. In fact, that was actually one of the first things I watched on Disney Plus was The Rocketeer.
It was for me too. I saw it and I was like, they knew what they were catering to when they put that out there.
Oh yeah. So I would give it 4.5. It's not one of those movies where I'm all like, I'm a diehard fan like you are.
Oh yeah.
But I really enjoy it. Willing to put it on myself at least once a year.
Would you recommend it to people?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
If I wouldn't be recommending, I would not be giving it 4.5 if I would not be recommending it to people.
It's a 4-star, but I don't watch it now.
Don't watch it, man, but it's really good. But don't watch the movie. So that's kind of where I lie in terms of ranking the movie.
All right, so I think that concludes our ride on the...
I actually have more.
Oh, you got more?
Oh, I got more. So,
what do you got?
I didn't talk about this with you guys before. Maybe I did a little bit. But you can actually still see references to the Rocketeer today in the theme parks. And we've talked about some of them.
Yeah, one was the popcorn.
Yeah, you can see the guy at the popcorn cart at Disneyland's Tomorrowland.
They got the mini popcorn turner.
You can see the Rocketeer. He's doing that, as well as they used to play the music, as I stated, in Tomorrowland. Now, did you know that you can see the rocket and the helmet at the Hollywood Studios?
No.
Then you probably didn't know you can see 2 of them.
2 of them?
2 of them. Oh. So one, I'll talk about because I mentioned that I was going to talk about it in this episode. In our last episode, we were talking about restaurants. In the Sci-Fi Diner restaurant, not necessarily in the main dining area, but off to the side, you can see several props from the Rocketeer. You can see the actual rocket. You can see the helmet. You can also see some of the newspapers that are framed from the movie.
Oh, fun.
Oh, that's cool.
So there are references in that restaurant. You can ask the cast members there. They'll point them out too. They all know all that stuff.
It's what they learn that stuff in training.
Also, there's actually a place in Hollywood Studios where you can actually touch the helmet and rocket pack.
What?
Yes, you can actually touch it. And you can even see the little ding inside of it, like the ding where the fuel was leaking from.
Oh, cool.
Yes, so it's actually
It'd be cool if it a little water comes out of it.
It's in a stand on, I think it's on the main walkway where they sell the slushies. I think it's PV stand, so properly named. Well, off to the side, you kind of have to move something to the side, but you can see the rocket and the helmet just sitting right there.
Oh, cool.
So you can actually reach out and touch it.
Oh, man. I want to go back just to do
now
that.
Now you gotta go.
No, I gotta go to Hollywood Studios.
Yep. And then in the past, a lot of the movie props and things like that was part of the backlot tour at Hollywood Studios, where they filmed in California, but they moved the giant Bulldog Cafe all the way to Florida to promote for the tour. And they also had several of the planes part of the tour as well.
Oh yeah, I remember when the planes were there, and then You'd see like the cars. They had a couple cars there from Dick Tracy, and then you have the Flight of the Navigator ship there.
Which we might do another episode. This just came to me. We should have an episode about movie props that are inside Disney parks.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
I like that.
So those are several of the props that I'm aware of that you can still see inside Disney parks today. Remnants.
I feel like I need to do a Rocketeer Hodge to, go and pay homage to the movie of so much influence on my life.
That's right. So those are my little theme park Easter eggs for the Rocketeer.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Glad you cut me off right there. Don't do it again.
No, I've got more.
So we've given it pretty much. It's a 4+. 5.
It's great.
Mickey Bar movie. This will probably be the highest rating any movie we ever recommend on this, because there's always going to be somebody going, nah, it's a 3. It's a 2.
We all know when we review the Lizzie McGuire movie, you'll all be fans of it.
Sure.
I'm kidding.
Please, I hope so. So please share with us if you've seen the movie. Share us your thoughts, what you think is good, what's bad, and your own rating. Whether you do it on our social medias, we have Instagram, Facebook. You can email us, and on Anchor, you can leave us a creepy voicemail too. Please leave us a creepy voicemail
Or a nice one.
or a nice one.
A family-friendly one.
Family-friendly creepy. I'm trying to get messages from you guys.
I really like the Rocketeer.
Exactly. That's what I'm looking for. That way I can use it as my ringtone.
Change it every week.
So please follow us on our social medias and leave some messages. That concludes our podcast. Auf Wiedersehen.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the Matterhorn Yodelers. Please remember, before your bobsled comes to a complete stop, to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And remember...
Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.